Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Patrick. Today we're going to be going over a pretty popular set-top box. I do collect a lot of those. If you're not familiar with a set-top box, pretty generic term for devices like the Apple TV, Roku's, Chromecasts, kind of in that category. And there are many other Android and other proprietary operating system boxes that allow us to do streaming and other smart apps and add a whole bunch of features to some of our lifeless TVs. Today we're going to be going over another one of those. It is the Amazon Fire TV. I recently took this off my TV after I pre-ordered it when they first announced it, I think May time. Pre-ordered it, super excited for it, followed it, all the dev meetings and forums, and I was all over that, and I was very excited for this. Retailed for $99 when it first came out. Today on Amazon in late 2014, retails for around $80. In the box you get this, the unit itself, a Amazon Power Brick, which is exactly the same 19 volt, 1-ish amp Power Brick that comes in any of their products. You have any of their tablets or one of their phones or any of their other goofy devices, it all comes with one of those. So I can't find mine. I think the cat ran off with it. Maybe it's still behind my TV. It comes with that, and also comes with the Fire TV remote. We'll start with the remote. Slender design. Dimensions are good. Fits in the hand very well. It's not too big, not too small. Curved here along the back, flat on the front. Pretty traditional. It is an IR-based remote, so you'll send IR commands, so it does require a line of sight. You can't hide this in a cabinet and expect to control it. So we'll go over this real quick. Rubberized, very interestingly textured rubberized piece, but just from touching it recently, you can kind of get it is a fingerprint magnet. Looks nice, but fingerprint magnet. Up at the top here you have a microphone and the microphone button. You might have seen the Gary Busey commercials where he's, hits a button, talks into it, Gary Busey movies, and it comes up with all this stuff. It's great, but the only downside to it is it only works on Amazon apps and Amazon features. So you don't expect to go into Netflix and say, find me action movies, and it's not going to work. Only Amazon. Of course, they don't mention that until you buy the box and you figure out it doesn't work, but something to consider. Voice function on this is great. Amazon pushes the crap out of it in marketing, but only works on Amazon apps, which is Amazon Prime, Music, and Movies, and the search function to search for your apps and the Amazon App Store. So you have this circular D-pad. It's got the up, down, left, right, and your select button here in the middle. Very similar to what other remote that we know. The Apple TV remote, very similar size to the Apple TV remote, big competitor here. And then here you have your back, home, menu buttons, rewind, pause, play, and fast forward. And these are more Android-based functions. You might recognize some of these icons. So it is definitely intended to compete with other set-top box devices out there. The box itself, it's good. My nose is itching me today, sorry about that. It's 4.5 inches square. Once again, I just cleaned this darn thing. It is a fingerprint magnet. A little bit of rubberized plastic here on the top. Still very plasticky around the sides. Also a fingerprint magnet. Very shiny black edging. As we come around to the back here, over here is your AC, DC power in. DC, AC, I have no idea. That's where you plug the power. HDMI to your device. Toslink or digital optical for sound out to a soundbar or surround sound system, receiver, all that good stuff. This is 10100 LAN Ethernet. So definitely want to plug that in if your Wi-Fi is not too strong and you're looking for good speeds for streaming and other services. And then you have a USB 2.0 port over here, which we'll get into this a little bit later. Mostly this USB port. 10100 is kind of standard, but nowadays I'd really like gigabit ports on a lot of my devices, but not the end of the world. They do. This does have Bluetooth 4.0 inside, so you can Bluetooth devices to it, and we'll talk about one of those here in a second. Internals, we'll talk about CPU. It has a 1.2 gigahertz quad core, which is very, very good, top of the line, runs anything, very lag free. 2 gigs of RAM in here, which is more than any other device you can get on the market. Roku's, Apple TVs, Chromecast, even some really nice Android TV boxes that retail for well over $100 do not come close to these specs. I have no idea how Amazon is making any money on this thing. Maybe this opens the window to their marketplace, and when you have to buy apps and games and other stuff like that, that's where they're recouping some of that cost. So very nice device. Sits very well, well disguised, very sleek. I like it. The operating system, I'm not going to go over that now. I'm probably going to do another video where we're just going to plug this into the TV and really go over some of the operating system that's on there. It is loosely based on Android, so it's good, but it's bad. I pre-ordered this. I was super excited about it. When first renderings came out, that USB port was a hot topic. The only thing that ever worked with this USB port is a keyboard or a mouse, and not all keyboards are mouse. I'm talking about a wired keyboard or a wired mouse. You couldn't plug like Logitech Unifying Receiver and use a nice multimedia keyboard like this, the Logitech K400R. I just did a review on this a couple weeks ago. It has like 4 views. I have no idea how it has 4 views, but go watch this, subscribe, all that good stuff. Goes very, very well with any of the set-top boxes, and it's right around $20. I have like 4 of these. These are fantastic. Back to the good stuff. USB port, total worthless. I was expecting to plug in my movie collection, and I can stream movies to it, and I can, I have this great home movie collection that, I can plug into it, and I can do a whole bunch of other things for, and I can have my own media remote, and this sounded like this perfect set-top box for me as a high-end, very tech-savvy, picky tech user, and it didn't turn out that way. Amazon really put the damper on what you can do with this device. The specs on the inside are amazing for the price. Nothing comes close. You can stream anything with a good, provided you have a good internet connection. Stream everything well. The games on this are fantastic. Even the highest end, multiple gig games. Modern Combat, that weird zombie game that you run around shooting things and building your army, and super awesome game. Can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It was awesome. All the Asphalt games, old classics like Crazy Taxi and some of the other games that you can get for this are amazing. Sub-Zero, Amazon came out with their own game development now. Now they have their own gaming platform, the Amazon Game Center, that they're going to start producing their own video games with. That was a very, very good game, and this thing ran perfectly with it. But now that USB port is almost worthless, it really hit me hard. If I would have known that before I pre-ordered, and if we would have known that from Amazon before, it might have stopped me from purchasing this. But depending on what kind of user you are, you can look past that. One more thing that you can get with this Amazon Fire TV for an extra $20–30, you can get this, the Amazon Game Controller. Controller is awesome. Fits very, very well in the hand. The sharp design is great. I do have smaller hands myself, but you've got your regular trigger buttons, the bumpers. On the front you have your 2 analog sticks, the D-pad. Right here is kind of the home game center button. And then you have your actual home menu buttons back. On this side you have your XYAB buttons that we're all used to with Xbox. And then on the bottom here you have your play, pause, rewind, and fast forward. So you can use this in place of the remote, which is fantastic. The games on this, like I had mentioned, are amazing. The App Store that they have has plenty of games. Not the biggest selection, but for a set-top box, most companies do not. You can't play games very well on an Apple TV, especially with that remote. Roku's the only really good game you can play is Angry Birds, which works good, but it's Angry Birds. Everybody's played it. It gets old. Chromecast you can't really game on very well. And if you want to game well on it, you're going to have to make a much different investment and invest in a whole bunch of different software and, to different firmware cracks and all that good stuff. So they do have some pretty good games for it. I was definitely interested. I picked up one of these very, very quick. And gaming is mostly what I do on this thing. Streaming is fine, but there are a lot of devices out there that can stream equally as well with half the specs. But that big killer for me was the USB port. I was hoping to do so much with it, but it did fall short. So 2 gigs of RAM, quad core. It has an Adreno 320 GPU, which is fantastic. It's much nicer GPU that's in a ton of devices. Ton of devices nowadays use the Mali 400 GPU, which is cheap and outdated. So Amazon really went full on with these specs, and I was super happy with it. 8 gigs onboard storage, which is okay, but 8 gigs runs out fast. You install like a, is it 8 gigs? I think it's 16 gigs. Scratch that. I'm pretty sure it's 16 gigs. I can't remember off the top of my head. And on Amazon's website, they don't even mention it. Pretty sure it's 16 gigs though. With the operating system and you install a couple of games that are like multiple gigs on there, very, very quickly you wind up with like 4 or 5 gigs left. So it would have been great to use this USB port for expansion. Just give me at least the ability to use expansion. This is loosely based on Android. You would think one of the core features of Android is to be able to expand your storage and you know, utilize that USB port. No micro SD slots, none of that stuff on there, but it's not the end of the world. So if you want all 3 of these things, the box, the remote that comes with it, and the controller runs you right around $125 right now. And I think sometimes they include, if you're a Prime member, $10 to spend on the store, which is great. You can pick up a couple games and a movie here and there. But the market that they have on here, you're definitely going to be spending money on. This device is not making them money. It's the apps that they sell and games that are on here that are just what's going to cost you what's going to cost you money. So let's go to Amazon's website and we'll go over some of the specs that they have. $79 right now. Has a lot of good reviews. 15,000 total views. 8,500 are 5-star. 3,000 are 4-star, but over 2,000 views are 1-star reviews. So they've definitely had some issues with it. They've got a lot of apps. They got Vivo, which is great. Plex is awesome. Twitch, YouTube, Netflix, ESPN, Pandora. Tons of apps. Great games. Deus Ex, Castle Illusion, Sonic, Game of Thrones, Sub-Zero, which is Amazon's game, Asphalt, Minecraft Pocket Edition. If you're a Prime member, obviously it's very, very good. If you're not a Prime member, you probably shouldn't be investing in that. It's really based for Amazon users. So they compare it with the Roku 3, Apple TV, and Chromecast. I have all of those devices. This definitely kills it in a lot of categories. Voice search. Nobody else has voice search. But the voice search on this thing, as I mentioned, is absolutely horrible and only works in very, very few Amazon-based apps. Certified Dolby Digital Plus surround sound, very good, but depends on your source. Optical audio out's a good plus, but the Apple TV also has it. This is the first quad-core box that's major. You can get octa-core boxes nowadays, but you're going to be spending a whole bunch of money. It's going to be Android-based. It's not going to have that proprietary sort of UI that's easy to get around. 2 gig of RAM, which I had mentioned, which is fast. It's great. It can handle anything you throw at it. Dual band, dual antenna Wi-Fi, which is good if you're a Wi-Fi user, but as we all know, Ethernet hardline is always, always faster. And it mentions popular services like Netflix, Amazon Instant Video, Hulu Plus, Crackle, YouTube, HBO Go, which is good, Showtime Anytime, ESPN, Bloomberg TV. I don't even know if anybody uses Bloomberg TV. Vivo, which is good, Pandora, MLB TV, Twitch, and games is where they really shine. This has over 400 games is what Amazon Fire TV rates it at. Roku 3 has about 100 games, which I wouldn't even say that. I'd say they have maybe like 50 games. Apple TV obviously has none. Chromecast has less than 75. It uses a Qualcomm Snapdragon. It's not a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core like I had mentioned. It's actually 1.7 gigahertz quad-core. Qualcomm, again with the GPU, it's the Adreno 320. Does have 8 gig internal storage. So I was correct the first time on that. Bluetooth 4.0, which I mentioned. Free cloud storage for all Amazon content. If you're big into putting your pictures and some home videos on here through Amazon services, you'll all get that stored free. So in the box included with this is the Fire TV itself, the voice remote which I had mentioned, 2 AA batteries that they include, the power adapter, and a quick start guide. And that is about it. So there's definitely good and bad things to say about this device. Good specs, amazing. If you're a streamer, if you're the basic user, this thing is fantastic. The UI is not the best. Operating system is a little bit different. If you've used Amazon devices before, you have one of their tablets or their phones, they kind of have that horizontal plane where you have movies, TVs, games, apps, favorites, recently viewed or played. And on the Fire TV, it's very, very similar, but it's in the vertical position. It's not the best, but they could be working on it. Hopefully this USB port on the back does become a little bit more usable. 7 months into it, and I have not. If I want to expand my storage, it's nearly impossible. And there are some heavy mods to really be able to install third-party apps. Yeah, I got SDK things, and it gets very, very deep into the tech world if you really want to use this to its absolute fullest potential. I'd consider myself an expert on it. I have been all over the internet. I have torn this thing apart and done many things to it. But overall, it's an okay device unless you're picky and tech savvy like myself. So I did take it off my TV. I do collect these, so we're going to start reviewing a whole bunch of these recently. But for the price point, if you're a very average, easygoing tech person, you just want to stream that Netflix or some other things, nothing beats this, especially if you're into Android gaming. Platform for it's great. Controller is absolutely awesome. It does communicate through Bluetooth, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's not the fastest nor the most reliable. Battery life on it is good. Controller does fit very well in the hands, and it entirely replaces the need for the other remote. On the front there, as I was pushing buttons, it will try to find the box, which is obviously not plugged in right now, and then one of those 4 lights will stay on to remind you of what player you are. You can connect up to 8 of these to a single device. So if you have any questions, you need help setting up one of these, you want any hints, tips, tricks, mods, other things like that, I am going to be doing another video where we're actually going to plug this into the TV and start really diving into some of the software aspect of this Amazon Fire TV. So like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Leave those questions in the comments section below. And thank you for watching. That's been the Amazon Fire TV review from Amazon. Thanks again.